senantiasa di Suka-Suka Gue Coffee Channel. Kali ini kita kedatangan tamu spesial. Karate udah bukan 2 lagi, karate banyak banget. Ada Ellie dari Homeground Singapore.
Yay, so good.
So,
Okay.
Ellie, do you wanna introduce yourself and the brand?
Okay. Right. So hi guys, I'm Ellie from Singapore. So I co-founded Homeground Coffee Roasters, which is turning 5 on Friday, this Friday,
Nice.
on the 18th of November. So, and I'm also the second runner-up for World Brewers Cup 2022. So yes, that's why we are here doing the brewing video today.
To not brew coffee. No, we're gonna brew coffee. What are we gonna brew?
All right, so we have actually brought a coffee that is from El Salvador. So like for homeground coffee, usually if you were to go into our store, it's we actually hide all the origins, the varietal, because we don't want people to have like a preconception of like Brazilian coffees has to be chocolatey nutty, or like Vietnam coffee is gonna be very robust, that kind of stuff, or like Indonesian coffee has to be very earthy and woody, because that's not true anymore, because of how like technology and processing have changes over the time. So this one I shall not review. The origin first. We can make a guess. So this coffee you actually get a lot of like green apple notes and followed by this nice chocolate biscuit finish. Very balanced. Nice. It's a coffee that you
It's
can
a wet
drink every day.
coffee from Sumatra.
So yeah, maybe we shall start.
Sure.
Okay, so first thing first is your filter paper. So when wetting a filter paper, or before you wet your filter paper, how I like to fold my filter paper, I actually give it a little bit more like fold and rather along the edges. A little bit more, because this actually then fits the V60 nicely.
Right.
Yeah. So when you wet your filter paper, this is what I will do too. Where is it? Okay. Okay, I like to wet my filter paper with room temperature water because
Why is that?
I like to reduce the amount of variables that I have to deal with. So for example, if
Right.
today you are brewing at a coffee show and it's like really hot, maybe 30 degrees, it's an outdoor show, and like if you are brewing in a cafe, it's like 23 degrees, like the initial temperature is actually different. And most people, I'm pretty sure, they don't like measure the temperature that they use for the hot water they use, the hot water they use for their pre-wet. It's like whatever probably is in the kettle. It can be 80, it can be 70. So like the initial temperature that you have for your triple is actually different. Especially if you are using something that does conduct heat, like whether in this case it's glass or like ceramic, unless it's plastic.
Right.
So for me, room temperature will always be the best.
Okay.
And I like to wet with like a jar or like a milk pitcher. And what I'll do is I always focus on the edges here.
Yeah.
And I pour really fast. So what you can see here actually is instead of like having a very nice even fold, it's actually like a small cone shape.
Right.
So this actually fits, the filter paper fits even nicely into the dripper itself.
Okay.
So yeah, that's how I usually do it.
And you obviously use the same water that you're using for the brewing.
Yes, of course. Yeah, so that's how we would usually.
And do you always rinse, or sometimes you don't rinse your paper filter, depending on the paper
Actually,
that
most
you
of the
use?
time I rinse, but more like depending on what filter paper I use. Some I actually rinse it even more thoroughly. Example, the Sibaris filter paper, the fast. The paper
Yeah.
taste is really intense. I make sure at least 500 ml runs through it before I use it.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because we did a video on Sibaris.
Oh.
We got the Sibaris at your shop, right? And then you did say that to me that you rinse it with 500. And then I read the packaging and it said something along the line of it shouldn't leave any paper flavor, even if you don't rinse it. So we did a side-by-side comparison. I personally prefer without rinsing better.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
I don't know if that's an odd batch of packaging that didn't
Okay.
have the taste, or maybe my taste bud is just dull and I'm like woody
I don't
and
think
sunny.
so.
But yeah, it's very interesting because
Okay.
me, I only rinse when I use this or the Hario P60 paper filter. Like there's one that is very famous in Indonesia called No Brand, the nylon-based one. I never rinse with that one. With Sibaris, I ended up not rinsing as well. So yeah, very interesting.
Well, like I guess this is also like there's never really like a right or wrong.
Yeah,
It really is down to
yeah, yeah.
preference. So yeah.
And I'm really stingy. I always measure my rinsing water.
Yeah.
I rinse with like only 100 grams. So if you ask me to rinse with 500 grams, it's a bit.
Yeah, I know, which is why I don't really use Siparis very often unless
Right.
we use Switch, because it actually works very well with Switch. Yeah, especially if you are using like Ethiopian coffees, we kind of like tend to choke sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
And then using the fast one,
It helps to solve the
yeah.
problem.
Okay.
So yeah, that's how I like to
Cool.
do with that. So yeah. Okay, and well, back to this coffee. Usually how I decide like what temperature I want to kickstart with my base recipe depends on the processing. So in this case, this is a honey process. They did not specify is it like white, red or black. So yeah, I'll be setting it to 88. And then
Which is closer to your wash or your natural?
natural, closer to the natural. So
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, let's get started. And I don't like to change my dose. Most of the time, I stick to 15 grams. Reason being because if you were to change your dose, a lot of things changes. Your
Yeah.
contact time, your
Yeah.
brew bait, height, things like that, total surface area. Unless today you only have 16 grams, then you use all 16 grams, please. Don't waste the coffee.
Yeah, I used to brew with 30 grams of coffee.
Oh, okay.
And then people started complaining because like we're drinking at home, you know, like we're not gonna finish, 30 grams dose of coffee. But then the reason why I started with 30 grams is I brew a lot at shows.
Yes.
So you're serving to a lot of people, or even if I'm drinking for myself, I like to drink the same coffee, but I like to drink it throughout the day. I don't need it to be hot, but I need it to last me a
The
few
whole-
hours, you know?
yes.
So I don't want it to just be gone after 2 sips. I want it to sort
Right.
of. But yeah, as you said, if you change the dose, it definitely
Oh.
changed your grind size, definitely changed everything
Yeah.
else.
So like that's kind of like the angle. But that being said, doesn't mean that if today you have 16 grams or 17 grams, you can't make a cup of coffee anymore. And there are ways that you kind of like overcome it. Usually I'll go coarser, and then I keep the rest of the same. So
Yeah.
that kind of like helps.
Or something like Switch, you can really control the time, right?
Yes.
Then you can just open or close
Yeah.
whatever you call that thing.
Whatever you-
Floodgate.
Oh, I don't know. Is there an actual term for this?
I don't know. This thing, the floodgate. Flood? No flood. No, actually flood. No flood? Flood.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Well, I never thought about like this actually has a name because we actually use this in the shop also.
Trapdoor.
Trapdoor. I think floodgate sounds cooler.
Floodgate, yes.
Yeah.
Open the floodgate.
So actually Switch is very versatile. So it's actually good for ice filter.
Yeah.
We use this a lot for ice filter,
Yeah.
especially like it's really hot here in Indonesia as well,
Yeah.
right? So yeah.
We're not getting paid by Switch, by the way.
Yeah.
Maybe they should.
I wish. Okay, so 15 grams.
And how many clicks was that?
I'm using like 24 clicks now.
24.
Yeah.
And do you also have a set amount of clicks for different coffee processes?
Yes. Oh, you always know how to ask the right question. Yes, I do. So like for example, natural anaerobic, they usually tend to be a lot more bitter, but then again, it depends on the roasting style as well.
Yeah.
But before home ground coffee, most of the time, or like for most coffees that I deal with, they are more bitter, so I go a lot coarser. And
Yeah.
wash, I go finer.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they're less bitter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like if you talk about the number of pours that I do my base recipe, naturals are usually like 3 pours, wash are like 4 pours. And then once you're done with your first brew, and then I just calibrate from there.
Yeah. Okay. And then when you change, do you change which one do you change for? Do you change the grind size first or the pulses? Or yeah.
Okay, I guess for me, first thing first, you must be able to identify like how does each variable influence your cup experience. So what exactly you want to change in a cup. So say for example, today the cup is very dry, meaning that like there's a lot of like coffee oils in your coffee. So what you can do is by going finer, increasing your surface area to actually improve the tactile of it. As contradicting as it might sound, dry is a sign of over extraction. But why are you actually going finer instead?
Yeah.
But think about it this way. If let's say the grind size that you have, if you are going too coarse, you are washing over the same surface area over and over again.
Yeah.
Right? The water might not have enough time to get into the core of the coffee. So by going finer, you actually increase the contact time and helps to improve the overall tactile. And then if today it's about the acidity, I change the water allocation, I change the temperature. So yeah, so it's not so much about like what comes first, but then it's more about like how each variable influence the cup.
Yeah.
So-
And I think understanding what variable does to your cup is really helpful, and obviously it comes with experience, right? So just I guess try a lot of different things, and then eventually you'll be able to find the right combination to
Yes.
to find the good cup of coffee.
Yeah, and trust me, if you nail the coffee so easily, you won't like coffee anymore.
I think that's what makes coffee great, you know, like
Yeah.
it's because it's this never-ending learning and trying to make things better.
Yes. So yeah, I guess that's what interests a lot of people, like spark interest in many people. Like, how do I actually, well, make this cup even better than before?
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So we
Today,
have 15 grams, right?
yes, 15 grams.
And then we're brewing with this fancy
Weighing scale.
device.
So yeah, so this weighing scale basically it's a dual weighing scale. You can measure your input and output. So that's how it works. And why do I feel that this is very useful? It actually helps to check whether how's your retention like for your coffee. Say for
Right.
example, certain coffee the retention is actually higher, some is lower. It actually also shows you a sign that like probably did you channel?
Right.
Yeah, and did the different roast profile for a same exact coffee change the retention? So it actually helps you to get a lot of data and ensure that like every cup is like consistent.
Okay.
So what I like to do usually to ensure that the flow rate is always constant, for my last pour, if let's say I'm going for 1:15 grams will be to 2 to 5 grams of water.
Yeah.
I probably pour up to like 240 or 250 because I want to make sure that like there's still sufficient amount of weight in the brew bed.
Right.
So like it will be constant, it won't be like till the last few bit, we're still waiting for it to drop. And with this weighing scale, I can cut off if I know
Right.
what's my target output.
Okay. So once you reach your target output here, you just close the floodgate,
Yes,
and then you can.
correct. Yeah.
Pro tip, guys. Pro
Pro
tip.
tip. Okay. Okay. So I guess the next question like people like to ask is like when do you pour in the center, when do you go in like circles? It's the same thing like what are these variables actually like how does it contribute to your final cup? So if you're going in circles, you actually introduce a lot more agitation and in that case you increase your extraction. Whereas if it's just in the center, it's less agitation as compared to the one that you're going in circles. So
I
yeah.
do zigzags.
Oh, really?
Just cause. Yeah. I really do.
How do you do the zigzag?
Just I go from left to right, left to right, left to right.
And then you go like that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
I don't know. I never felt like going in circle helps me do things properly, like in terms of breaking clumps and being more consistent. Whereas I feel like going side by side or zigzag was
Okay.
easier for me to control my flow rate
Right.
and I don't know if this is correct or not, but I feel like it's less agitation than circles.
Ah.
But then again, I'm not a brewer, so.
Well, I have to try. I've never tried.
But yeah, I like going zigzags.
Okay, so do you want to do like a full? Should we do a full immersion, or like a?
Up to you.
Okay.
You know the coffee better.
Okay, in that case, let's
Coffee.
do like. Let's do a mixture of like the first two pour. The first pour
Sure.
we do immersion, and then like after that we do percolation. Okay, just make sure it's close. Okay, we've got our water ready, so I'm using 88.
88. Ooh, it starts itself. I really don't know how to use this ultra coffee.
So I guess the good thing is like you don't have to worry about like you need to kickstart.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you will see that like you actually can look at the brew ratio. It's automatically calculated.
Also, you put in the initial dose that you put in, which is
Yes, yeah.
15.
Then it will automatically calculate like, oh, that's the brew ratio. The only challenging thing about Ultra Kogi is it's very sensitive. So
Yeah.
you really need to know when you want to start and when you want to stop.
Okay. So rather than showing you how many grams you've put in, it shows you.
Both.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so because now we haven't released.
Oh, okay.
So once we released it, then the weight here will change. Yeah, so let's. So if we are doing immersion, usually I would give it like a quick stir. Yeah, because like when you pour in your hot water, that's when all the carbon dioxide actually push all the grinds upwards. So it's just like cupping, it's the same thing. So yeah. So after 1 minute 10 seconds, we can release the brew.
How much water did you put in, sorry?
60.
60.
So this is when you can actually see that light.
Okay.
The output. So yeah. Okay, so because this coffee, we are going on a coarser side, so I'll go slower to actually ensure that it has more time for, to have more contact time.
Between the water and the grinds.
Yes. So yeah, in this case, it's like kind of like trying to increase more agitation.
Yeah. So you're doing 2 pulses?
Yeah.
Do we need a ceramic cup with hot water?
We can
You're gonna trap this aroma, yo. Try to find one.
Okay. So, okay, we're gonna do that with the hot water.
If you want to do
But
it.
this is the signature move.
It's your signature move.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, like, why are we doing this right now?
Yes, what are we doing this?
Yeah, so this was actually inspired because we went to Melbourne and the weather was really dry, and we know that we had to increase the humidity, or rather the atmosphere humidity, to actually help the judges taste better, because under very dry circumstances, it's just like when you're on an airplane, and explains why our airplane food is kind of shitty. It's so heavily seasoned because you can't pick up as much as you would when you're on land. So yeah, by doing this, it helps to build up like more water vapor within the server itself. And water vapor is a gas form of water, and that helps to capture more aromatic volatile.
Yeah.
Usually I leave it on it for like almost like 30 seconds.
Right. Does it matter if you leave it longer?
Honestly, not much.
Okay.
Yeah, if you have tried like 30 seconds, 10 seconds, 1 minute, 1 minute 30 seconds, not much difference.
And you've mentioned that you've done this with both hot and cold water.
Yes, hot and cold. It actually changes the aroma profile of the coffee itself.
Oh, how so?
Yeah. Honestly, scientifically, I'm not so sure. I'm very honest. If I don't know, I will tell you I don't know. Yeah, I'm not so sure
But what's
why.
the difference?
Okay, one thing is I realized that for hot water, it definitely intensify. You bring out a lot of like red and purple kind of aroma, but I only tried one coffee.
Right, your competition.
Yeah, whereas the cold one was like more towards like the yellow and green side, which is not something that I really wanted to showcase.
Yeah,
it was on the lighter side.
Yeah.
So
you want deeper, complex.
Yes, so that's why I went for this.
Sweet.
So yeah.
Should we try?
Sure. Well, I guess you have very interesting cups here as well. Do you wanna?
Sure. So good.
Okay, so another small tip, if anyone needs to know, if let's say you're serving coffee to multiple people, this is what I usually would do. So you ensure that like all the cups will taste the same.
This very Bristol comes. You gotta eyeball which one's the best.
Well, personally, I like to pay a lot more, as in like I enjoy a lot looking into the sensory experience.
Yeah.
Which is why I enjoy coffee and food so much. So yeah, sometimes it's really the small little things that you can do at home that makes a difference.
Yeah, I went to your new cafe, right? And then I was very impressed by not just the coffee menu, but actually the food menu was very impressive. Because normally you see a food menu is just literally just food menu, right? But you put the philosophy behind it, and then the menu itself, the menu items were very interesting.
So yeah, I guess it's like sometimes is what we always say, like it's the experience that people remember. Yeah, so that's what we want to put across. Wow, this is interesting to drink from a glass, because I don't usually drink from a glass.
You
but
normally drink from ceramic?
Yeah, but this is pretty good.
Yeah, I'm always torn between glass or ceramic. With espresso, for sure ceramic is 1,000 times better. But with filter coffee, sometimes glasses taste better, sometimes ceramic. But I think almost always, at least 80% of the time, ceramic still tastes better.
Yeah.
But aroma-wise, glasses are always. I think aroma is a little bit better.
Much better. Yeah. So I mean, like, yes, I'm not sure about the scientific reason again, but like because we actually did a comparison of a ceramic server and a glass server because that's what Origami has.
Yeah,
so
okay.
like you kind of like be able to compare. And I think one thing that like because when you talk about sensory, visually engaging is very important. People like to be able to see through.
Yeah.
Yeah. So glass is more enticing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, should we reveal what this coffee is?
Yes. So this coffee is from El Salvador. Yeah, so it's a coffee from Finca Limas. Well, we're actually serving this during the show, and a lot of people was like, "Huh, El Salvador? How good can it be?"
So
But
good.
I guess like, which is why initially we decided to hide the origin itself, because sometimes it's really hard for you to say whether is it good or bad by just looking at the origin. And this varietal is a Tabi. Another question that we got was like, oh, there's Tabi in El Salvador. Well, I think there's nothing that anyone should feel surprised anymore in coffee industry nowadays.
Or what is Tabi?
Yeah. So like for this Tabi, honestly, this is probably the first Tabi that I enjoy.
Okay.
Yeah, because the last few Tabis that I had were a little bit more on the herbal side. It kind of like inherit a little bit of like herbal notes.
Yeah.
This one, although it's on the green side, like a green apple, but it has this very nice smooth mouthfeel together with the chocolate biscuit. It's
very
great
creamy.
for like it's very great
Yeah.
for like everyday kind of coffee,
Yeah.
which is something that honestly I think everyone would enjoy. You don't want to drink like a bombastic kind of coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
So that's how we enjoy coffee at Homeground too.
Sweet. Yeah.
And yeah, well, actually for here we include like what would be the best way or what would be the recommended brewing equipment that you can use. And that's
Origami, Kalita, or Aeropress. Yeah.
Harry was not here.
But you made it taste good.
So yeah, so this is how it's like.
Awesome, yeah, and Tabi is interesting because at So Good and at Catur we work with a lot of climate resilient coffees. Especially in Indonesia, you don't really have varietals that are grown for flavors. A lot of the cultivars here or the varieties here are made for yield, right? For export, because that's what we care about. But Tabi is also interesting because then it's cultivated for both flavor and also climate resiliency, right? It is highly leaf resistant. So it's very interesting to see that things that are developed to be climate resilient can also taste good. You know, not just there for the yield or not just there so that you still have coffee, but can actually taste good. I think Tabi and a lot of other things can be an answer to climate change. Like F1, I really like your F1. I didn't tell you, but I had F1 as my wedding coffee. So on the morning, the videographers were asking me to make coffee and all that, and then I had F1, I had Esmeralda, I had a couple of other options, and then I really like the F1 because for the same reason, it's something that was developed for climate resiliency, but ended up tasting like
really tasty,
crazy, you know. So yeah, good on you for sourcing all these beautiful coffees.
Yeah, call Regina now for the F1.
All right, so thank you so much for allowing us to host you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I had fun too.
Awesome. Tell people where they can find your brand, your roastery, your coffees, your merch, things like that.
Right. We are in Singapore. We have Singapore. Our IG is homeground.coffee. Very easy to remember. Everything that you need to know about Homeground is definitely on our Instagram. Where we are located at, when are we open, what is the new coffee
Do you do
release.
international shipping?
Yes, we do.
Awesome.
So yeah, anytime when you need coffee, look for Homeground.
Cool. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll see you folks in the next episode. Ciao.